Hello, and welcome to the 30th episode of Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by Direct Selling News, where host Wayne interviews the channel's leading corporate executives to provide timely insights and relevant takeaways to help you grow and evolve your businesses. In today's episode, Wayne is joined by Sarah Shadonix, founder and chief executive officer of Scout Cellar. Founded in 2017, Scout Cellar has made a big splash in a short time. Built around the idea of creating a more natural and healthier wine experience, Scout Cellar introduced a new way to drink wine, free from artificial processing and ingredients and without added sugars. That clean, crafted commitment became the foundation and a core pillar of the brand, and the company's success in its first 5 years illustrates how meaningful that commitment has become both to customers and distributors. And just as fascinating as the success of the company is the unusual story behind it. Sarah left her decade-long career as a litigator to explore her passion for wine, which ultimately led to the desire to create a better wine experience. And 5 years later, the achievements of Scout Cellar recently led it to receiving one of DSN's inaugural Bravo Impact Awards at the 2022 Direct Selling News Global Celebration. This award honors companies that take a holistic, measured, and incremental approach to growth, innovation, and operational integrity and excellence. On this episode of Direct Approach, Sarah shares the interesting story about how and why she chose direct sales as the business and distribution model, a model that she had no prior experience with before. And she dives into how the clean, crafted commitment was created and how it drives transparency and innovation in their product strategy. She also talks about how the lessons she's learned about understanding the dynamics of the field, the company's renewed focus on simplicity, and the importance of trust in building a business. But before we begin the interview, executives across the channel are constantly looking to hear from leaders like Sarah to learn what's new and next for direct selling. Join us this October 6th and 7th in Irving, Texas for the Fall 2022 DSU event. There you can learn from 30 plus of the highest performing and uniquely innovative companies in the channel. Companies like Rodan & Fields, Princess House, Amway, USANA, Prove It, Lime Life by Alcone, Zingular, Young Living, Tava, eXp Realty, Amer Global, and more. This DSU will be the best one yet, with a completely reimagined format with more how-tos and concrete takeaways to help grow and evolve your businesses, plus priceless networking time with industry peers. DSU is free to all active corporate direct selling executives. All you have to do is register today at dsu2022.com. And now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, Sarah Shadonix, founder and chief executive officer of Scout Cellar.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today I'm joined by a fascinating individual. She is a really brilliant entrepreneur, also the recipient of this year's DSN Bravo Impact Award, the founder and CEO of Scout Cellar, Sarah Shadonix. Sarah, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Wayne. I'm thrilled to be here.
So one thing right off the bat, I kind of have to get this out of the way. I think it's super cool that in your LinkedIn bio, one of the titles that you have is sneakerhead. I haven't seen that before. It's super cool. As a fellow sneakerhead, I could really appreciate it. And I did notice at DSN the really dope Air Force Ones that you were wearing. So great to be with another sneakerhead.
Cool. Thanks for noticing, and thanks for that. We'll have to compare shoes more. I didn't realize you were also a lover of sneakers, but I love it. I have to share this with you. I was traveling. My daughter played in a soccer tournament this past weekend, and I had a local beer, and it was called Sneaker Tree. And I was like, oh,
that's great.
That's a great name. Like, I love it.
I love that. That's really cool. Well, I think adding stuff like that in LinkedIn and just, making people more approachable and personal, I think is really, really cool. And it allows people to get to know you on, a much deeper and more intimate basis. So anyhow, shout out for that.
Well, thank you.
So I'd love to start out by hearing a little bit about what kind of motivated you or drove you to leave practicing law, for almost a decade to become an entrepreneur. And also as part of that, why did you choose direct selling as your go-to-market for Scout Cellar?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about the journey, because it's definitely that, it's a journey. Because when I left my practice of law, I had honestly, Wayne, no intention of becoming an entrepreneur. I left my legal career to go work in and with something that I'm incredibly passionate about, in a field I'm incredibly passionate about, and that's wine. I love wine for the way it brings people together. You know, you gather around a bottle of wine, and it has a story to tell. There's folks that are passionate about it, that grew the fruit, that made the wine, and that's a labor of love. And so I love the story that it has to tell. But then, you know, when you gather around wine, you swap stories. So it has a story that you tell when you enjoy it and you share it. And so I am such a big geek about wine, and I love how it brings people together. And so I went to pursue this passion I had to work in wine, and that was it. Spent a year earning some wine certifications, went off to work in the wine industry in California, in e-commerce, and kind of had some life experiences that had some self-discovery about the commercialization of wine, that led me to learn about an opportunity to create a wine for the rest of us that was free from, both in the vineyard and in the cellar, kind of create this whole new kind of wine that we now call clean crafted, because there's organic, there's biodynamic, but that doesn't really tell, regular folks that are shopping for wine what that even really means. And so, and I knew I wanted to launch this brand, this kind of wine, this whole new kind of wine online, because I've been working in e-commerce, Wayne, in the wine industry in California for a couple of years, and was fascinated by it. It's incredibly complicated, but it was a really growing channel for wine. About 1% of wine at this time, since 2014, was being sold online. And so big opportunity, because all of us back then were Amazon Prime members. But yeah, we weren't buying wine online. So I'm like, okay, we're going to launch this whole new kind of wine. We're going to sell it online. How in the world is anybody going to know about it besides my mom and my sister? And so I looked at, did some market research to see who really does buy wine and why do they buy wine. And I'm the primary buyer of wine. Me and my girlfriends, women, are the primary buyers of wine. We buy wine based on three things: what our friends drink, the story behind the wine, and the label. And so I put that together. Okay, those are the reasons of why people buy wine and who buys wine. And we're going to launch this new kind of wine, and we're going to sell it online. How are we going to launch this brand and drive traction? And a friend of mine across the street was, ironically enough, marketing Plexus.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm like, this is an interesting business model. So I learned about it, and peer-to-peer marketing. And I'm like, the realities of this business model could potentially work to help support a brand launch for this whole new kind of wine we were launching. And so that's how I came to be in the direct selling space, is because of the realities of clean crafted wine, the market opportunity with e-commerce, and my friend across the street, Emily, that was marketing Plexus. And here we are today.
Yeah, that's a great story. And again, I hadn't thought about kind of the inherent social element or dynamic that's in there with that product as well. But I'm sure glad that you chose direct selling. I've really followed you since the launch. I remember just thinking there's nothing like that out there, in direct selling. And as I followed, I've really felt like I'm kind of gonna geek out a little bit, a little bit of a fan of your company and your brand. But I've loved what you do, and especially kind of the way that you do it. And coming from the marketing background, the brand background, it was really clear to me that you were intentional, not just about launching products or a company, but really about launching a brand. It seems to me, you can go to your website, it's very well organized. And I mean, not just the website, your brand is very well organized. You know exactly who you are, what you do differently, the brand promises that you're going to deliver on. And I think that when a brand is so well defined, it definitely makes decisions downstream or down the road much easier when you have that foundation or those anchors in place. Another thing I think that you do really well is this hierarchy of messaging, of information, especially as it relates to product and opportunity. In direct selling, it's something that I think, we've been historically so opportunity heavy, at different points in the channel's life cycle. And I think a lot of the companies are still trying to figure out, how do we strike that balance? Which levers do we dial up? Which do we dial down? And I think in today's consumer-driven world, you really have to lead kind of with your external facing brand that is really product driven. And I think you really nailed it. Again, as you come to, especially your homepage, I learned so much so quickly just by scanning. And then of course there's the, become a consultant as well. It's part of it. It's not heavy-handed. You don't hit people over the head with it. It's not confusing to the uninitiated. Can you talk a little bit about that, striking that balance? And I wonder if, kind of being new to direct selling, if you were a little bit free from some of the baggage of the past and you just said, look, this is what makes sense to me, probably to every other consumer that comes in. Can you talk a little bit about how you strike that balance?
Sure, I'd love to. I think you hit the nail on the head with that last couple of comments, Wayne. It's because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, because I had no experience in the direct selling space until I started Scout Cellar. I had never, other than talking to my friend Emily and doing some pre-market research before I started the company, and then hiring folks that had been in this space for a long time, I had no experience in this space at all, none. And so I came completely fresh-faced with no, I wouldn't call it baggage, but with no prior experience. And so really focused on finding people that were really smart to help me build a brand that would, hopefully resonate with the consumer, that was representative of who we are, who we were going to be, and our products. And so we were really focused on building that. That was first. So build the brand, build the core values, build a mission statement that would be representative of who we are and who we were going to be. Then focus on delivering products that are, of course, backed by our clean crafted commitment. But part of the pillar of our clean crafted commitment is that the products must be delicious, because if it's not delicious, it doesn't matter. I say that all the time. And so by delivering on a brand that resonates with consumers, that it delivers more than just a logo, means something, is giving back to a community, is creating a community, but also delivering a product that is delicious every single time and that's doing better for the planet, and that you can feel the difference of clean crafted. I think that the opportunity is the piece that people want to know about. If we can deliver on those first two pillars well, we got a good brand and we got delicious products, then people naturally are inclined to want to learn more. And then that's a more authentic way to become involved in our community, which is the best part of Scout Cellar. But I think that we built this hierarchy of communication by accident, just because we didn't know any other way.
Well, it certainly works. And I think you really, you nailed it right there with talking about kind of the sequencing of delivering those. And in my comment earlier, I definitely don't want to, come across as I'm not putting emphasis on the opportunity, because both are vital. You can't have a direct selling company without, both of those foundational elements, both of those anchors. But I do think it's about the sequencing or timing that you introduce someone, even, within the messaging, again, how you did it, even your homepage. I encourage everyone just to go look at it. Again, it's not right at the top. You know enough about the brand, who you are, what you do differently, the benefits you're going to provide. And then it's, oh, hey, you can also, join this community and share these wonderful products. So again, I love how you did it. And kind of drafting off what you were saying about the clean crafted commitment. Can you talk a little bit about, this is a really interesting kind of point of innovation that you developed, that your brand is really positioned around and really is a foundational brand association for you. Can you talk about the difference between, clean is a really important purchase driver for consumers. We all gravitate towards that. But you took it really further and went much deeper with it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for asking. So clean is an idea, and it does drive consumer interest, but clean doesn't really mean anything. You say clean, it's not telling me anything about the product beyond just a marketing word. And so we built a proprietary standard that's actually defined and is delivering to the consumer something that they know what it is, something that's better for the planet, better for their body, that's actually defined. And so we're delivering on an opportunity that is beyond just a marketing word. And so our clean crafted commitment is delivering onto the consumer something that is wine that is made from grapes grown with no synthetic pesticides, vinified with no synthetic additives, less than 100 ppm in sulfite, and no added sweetener. And that's a lot for a consumer to hear, certainly one that doesn't know about wine. And so we have made it simpler for them in February of this year, we began to issue ingredient labels on all of our wines. Which in alcohol, there's no ingredient labeling on alcohol. So this is an additional step in transparency. And then we also publish for all of our wines not only ingredients, but also we call it baby blockchain for wine, but it's called our soil to sip report, which tells everything that grape undergoes in its journey from being picked as a grape all the way till it becomes wine. And so just bringing the consumer along on our journey, the grape's journey in its process to become wine, to really just to kind of tell that story all the way from soil to sip, from grape to glass, to really bring to life the Clean Crafted commitment as a standard that means something more than just the marketing term clean.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's so much more than just making a great product. The story in there, the authenticity, the involvement that you have, and how it brings the consumer in as part of the process and helps them really to kind of integrate more deeply into that brand story. I love that aspect. I love the transparency. I know that all of us are demanding more and more of that. I know I've become a label reader now. There's many people that are way better than me, but I know some of the key ones to try to avoid. And I know consumers are going to demand more and more of this. So all of us in the channel, I know, are going to have to kind of follow your lead here and become more and more transparent around sourcing, around manufacturing and supply chain. So as you were talking about the Clean Crafted commitment, it's more than a marketing term for you. It is more than just a positioning. It's really this, how I look at it again from a brand lens, is it's this foundation of brand associations that you can then leverage for future growth in a really authentic way. So I want to get your insights on how you approach product and category extensions. I think you're doing this in a really interesting way. And a lot of companies, companies even that I've been at times, in the pursuit of growth, we're going to abandon some of these anchors that we've really well defined around the brand, whether it's positioning, whether it's some of the promises we make in the pursuit of growth, or make them a little bit more flexible, and then try to kind of justify down the road, this is why we are bringing this product into the portfolio. And more often than not, it's us looking at competitors and going, oh, that product's selling really well now. We need to get some of that magic, so let's launch there. And we really kind of do some gymnastics trying to tie it back into the brand and who we are. And also, most product launches fail, in the first year, just to be blunt. And most of the reason is around relevancy, that those brands did not have permission to go into the categories that they launched into. And you're doing this in a really cool, really authentic way. And I would love for you to tell us a little bit about how you're using this point of innovation as a platform for future growth.
So our Clean Crafted commitment is our most well-known, recognized brand of all of our hierarchy of brands. Scout Cellar has quite a lot of brands. If you think about, you talked about, communication hierarchy, we have Scout Cellar, we have our Clean Crafted commitment, then we have all of our wine brands, Fieldhouse, Bookbinder's Apprentice, Bernhardt, Middle Jane, and a handful of others. So there are a lot of brands within our portfolio of brands within our company. But our Clean Crafted commitment is our most well-known, our most valuable, our most recognized brand among all of our brands. And so building upon that foundation was incredibly critical to expansion. But also, it's the thing that's the most important to us. It's where we started. It's our foundation as a company. We are only here because of our Clean Crafted commitment. That's why we're in this space. That's why we exist. Is we set out to create an entirely different standard of wine that was the most stringent in the industry, but also that provided clear communication to the consumer to get a bottle of wine that was better for them and better for the planet, that didn't exist. So it's our most important brand, our most important foundation. So as we look to grow, to bring more folks into our franchise, to drive demand for Clean Crafted and to make a difference in the world and in people's lives, it made sense to build upon the foundation of our Clean Crafted commitment. And so we've actually been doing it for a few years now, and I think even our consultants and customers haven't even realized it. First we did it with packaging innovation. We moved into canned wine in 2018, way before it was cool. And then we moved in 2020 into wine spritzers to compete with the Trulies and the White Claws of the world, using wine as a base, of course. And then we've moved into, we also did a pretty cool innovation of a wine-based cocktail that's half the alcohol of vodka and tequila and gin, but drinks similarly, also made from fermented grape spirit. And then we've done a couple of other wine-based innovations. Last year, we also got into olive oil and vinegar, made and grown similarly as wine, from an agricultural product, then pressed, and the byproduct is served on your table in the same way that wine is. And so all of our product innovation is built upon this foundation of our Clean Crafted commitment. And so as we look towards the future, actually later this year, we're launching and getting into, we're launching Clean Crafted coffee. And so, a similar agricultural product, an opportunity to, create a different standard and change the way that we think about this product. Lots of opportunity for growth. It's on our table. We enjoy it, a few cups a day. And so, but again, built upon the foundation that is our Clean Crafted commitment as we look to bring more folks into our brand, but also create opportunity for others.
I think that's really cool to set such a strategic foundation. Again, I think that's evidence of the value that our brands have. It's not just the products, it's not just the company, but these brands that we have this intrinsic value that we can leverage, that we can extend into new opportunities and new categories. And again, you're doing it in such a great and strategic way. And when you look at it that way, it really kind of opens up the field. It allows you to drill really deep and kind of stay who you are while expanding into new opportunities. And there's really long legs there. You can keep running, in these different directions around this idea of clean crafted in a lot of different ways. So super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is, we started with clean crafted wine and then have built this foundation of our Clean Crafted commitment. And then, we're moving into this idea of a clean crafted lifestyle. So it's really exciting, but again, built on this foundation that's been there since day one and moving in a very linear, thoughtful way. And so it's a lot of fun.
I bet. And I think that back to something we talked about just a few minutes ago, that it makes decisions a little bit easier so that as products are pitched to you, whether it's from the field, whether it's, eventually from markets or, even from vendors and things like that, when you know who you are, when it's really well defined, the area, the space that you're going to play in and how you're going to win, it makes saying yes or no, I think, much easier than sitting down and going, well, does it fit? Can we make it fit? How do we make, put this puzzle together? And so again, I think it's so strategic. Congratulations. It's so cool. I've loved learning and following this. So one thing I think you also do really well is promotions. And we all argue, discuss, wrestle with what's the right amount, timing. We want to avoid kind of conditioning our field or our customers to wait for a certain week in the month and then purchase all their product then. How have you done it where it's really effective, but that you avoid any of this kind of promotional spiral and kind of these, second order effects?
Gosh, I don't know that we figured it out, to be honest with you. I mean, we're doing our best to try to learn from our field, in partnership with our field leaders, tracking consumer behavior, watching who buys what when, being mindful of there's a lot of national wine, national beverage holidays. So being mindful of consumer trends as well to try to time it right. And also just being mindful of general market trends and conditions to try to just make the best decisions we can with the information that we have, as well as, and so that's really how we've approached it, Wayne. And so I don't know that we've cracked that nut. Sure. I don't know that we ever will, but we're certainly, doing things better than we did last year and doing things better than we did a year before, which I guess is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think some of the things that we've done successfully are capitalizing on, we do a lot of revenue in our fourth quarter. It's a big celebration time.
And a gifting time as well, right?
Gifting time, corporate gifting. So each year, I think we do a little bit better job of providing our consultants opportunities to, take advantage of corporate gifting opportunities, group gifting opportunities. And so I think that's another big part of something that we've done pretty well as we've continued to grow as well outside the promotion.
That's great.
Space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to shift kind of out of product and a little bit into supporting the field and some of the things you're doing. I'm curious, as you were kind of new, maybe 5 years ago into direct selling, building and motivating a sales force has always been one of the superpowers of direct selling companies. It's something that they've done well for about 100 years now. As an entrepreneur launching a company, how did you quickly learn the skill of motivating, interacting, building a sales force within Scout Cellar?
I think in the beginning.
I know that's a big question. I know that's
such a big question. I know. I'm thinking back to I'll tackle it from the beginning, and then we can maybe go into the future. I think in the beginning, it really stemmed from what we talked about earlier, Wayne, which is we built a really compelling brand with a unique selling proposition that meant something to people. And then we had a really amazing product that was unlike anything in the marketplace, either in direct selling or in traditional retail. And so being able to tell that story authentically, it was unlike any other thing going on at the time, and even still today. And so I think, leading from and building from that place of called strength, put us in a really good position to bring on folks that were capable, amazing, experienced, patient, and willing to be mentors to me as we began to build this company. And so I think that was really a key to our success, certainly in our first 6 months, is because everything that could have gone wrong certainly did. And like most companies that start fast. And I think some of the keys to early success were, living our core values out: authenticity, passion, family, doing the right thing, and transparency, but also just owning when mistakes happen, being authentic, being vulnerable. And I think that instilled a lot of trust with the field, and those types of things went an awful long way to setting me up to be a trustworthy leader, which was really critical, I think, in the early stages, which helped us to build a foundation of solid growth for the future. And I think it just grew from there.
Yeah, that trust is absolutely vital. And again, I know your field definitely, trusts the company, the brand, the products a lot, because you really deliver on your promises. So I'm curious what maybe one of the biggest surprises has been about launching and leading a direct selling company.
The passion. I think the passion and the demand to be able to expectation manage. I was an attorney before this, as you mentioned, and so that expectation management is kind of part of the job when you're a lawyer, and that's number one or number two job as the leader of a direct selling company is expectation management and over delivery, but on those expectations, right? And so I think understanding the dynamics and the passion and the trust that the field and the leaders place in the company, and extending that trust back. I think that was the thing that was the biggest surprise to me. I just didn't appreciate the field dynamics at all. And I'm so grateful to get to work alongside our field and empower them to be successful in what they do as they empower us to be successful. We're one big team. And so I think just the dynamics of the field, was very surprising, but that's been the best part of the business, is we're all empowering each other to be successful. And that's the part I love the most.
Yeah, me as well. It is what makes us most unique. And I think that passion is never felt more strongly than at an event. And I know that you recently brought everybody back together for the first time in a few years. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the impact that had on you, the corporate team, and the field as well, where again, they're getting that sense of community in person, face to face, and maybe how you're going to handle the balance between virtual and in-person events going forward?
Yeah, we just got back together a weekend before last, so 9 days ago. We were here together in Dallas for AMP, our national sales conference. AMP is short for ampersand, which is the symbol, for and in our name. But it also is the unit of measurement for energy. So it's such a great name for our national sales conference. So we got together for the first time since 2020. It was the last time we were all together as a company. We got together right before COVID, I think, a week or two before COVID hit in 2020. And so it was incredibly emotional, incredibly inspiring, all the things that a field, event promises to be. This event was both for our field, but as you mentioned, also for our winery team, our team that works in the office and in the fulfillment center and the customer service center every day, for us to gather in a way and see the fruits of our labor, get the hugs and hear the thank you stories and the inspirational stories. And, I was so proud of the content we put on. We launched coffee. We launched some other big initiatives that are coming down the pike, and just to feel the energy from the field and then to in turn hear some of the field stories about some of the things that they've conquered. Our theme for AMP was breakthrough. And so we did a lot of talk about the things that we're going to break through as a company, how we've been a breakthrough company in the last 5 years. We talked about some other breakthrough companies, the things that we're going to do as a company to continue to be a breakthrough company, both in product launches and empowering consultants to break through things in their own lives. And it was incredibly inspiring. We had an exercise where consultants broke boards, like literally broke through boards to signify things that they're going to break through in their own lives. And so it was a reminder of, tears flowed, and it was we had a lot of fun. We had a vintage decades party. It was all the things a field event should be, and reminded us of the importance of these events in terms of not only to remind us why we're really here. And so as we look kind of towards the next 6 months, we're creating more opportunities to be together, not necessarily in that big of a stage, but I'm flying to Alabama, for example, in a couple of days to do a few events, and then I'll be in other parts of the country, East and West Coast, as so will the rest of our team, just to gather together, because that's such a big part of our business and in this industry is being together. And it's pretty hard to share a bottle of wine when you're not together. So.
Right. So how do you think you're going to handle virtual? Does that still have a place? Is that still a tool in the toolbox for you? Or now after, going through AMP, you're like, we need to be face-to-face as often as possible?
I think there's an opportunity for a little bit of a mix. I think there's certain things that we can do virtually. But I think that the power of a roadshow, the power of smaller in-person gatherings is where it's at. And so as we continue to map out the next 6 to 12 months, it will involve more in-person gatherings. We'll still utilize, virtual in some ways, but I think like everybody else, we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know my tune has changed on it a couple times. I remember, initially in 2020 thinking, a large virtual convention's never going to work. The team did an amazing job. I feel like under all the circumstances, it was as great as it could possibly be, increased reach in some ways. And then you go through a couple of years of that and you do realize that something is missing, that in-person component and dynamic that's vital to loyalty, to commitment, to building those field leaders was absolutely missing. And so I've kind of swung absolutely back around and going through the, DSU, not too long ago. It was so amazing to be back with these individuals. It's something that really can't be replicated. And I agree with you. I think that virtual has its place, and can be used strategically in certain ways, but we can't be without that face-to-face experience with our field and with each other. So again, congrats on an amazing event. I heard it was really, really great.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really powerful. It was great. Thank you.
So one of the secrets to scaling is also simplicity, trying to keep as much friction and complexity out of any processes, out of the company as possible is vital. What are some of the ways that you're doing to leverage technology to really simplify things and eliminate complexity so that you can scale more quickly?
I got to tell you, this is one of the areas that we have not been awesome, and we've scaled despite it, I have to say. So just coming full stop, I think we've had a renewed focus on simplicity in the last 6 to 12 months. I think we are guilty, maybe like a lot of other fast-growing companies, of just adding things, add without taking away, right?
Been there. Yeah, absolutely.
And then you look up and you're like, look at this scroll of stuff. Like, seriously, like we can't even keep track of it. How in the world is our executive manager in the field that works this business, an hour and a half a week, going to keep up with all this? Goodness gracious. And so we are making a very focused effort throughout the past 6 months to simplify. And so we're doing that in a number of ways. We have we've simplified the onboarding process, 6 simple steps to onboarding. We're simplifying the learning management system for learning how to be a consultant. We're launching with a CRM app that is going to simplify the entire way our consultant at any level does business with us. So simple is the name of the game, and that includes a closet clean out and a focus on less is more. But that's hard. Adding stuff's real easy. Taken away and being more simple has been proven to be hard for us. And so, but we're focused on it because that's the only way to scale. Because folks that work, there's not 1,000 people in the world that are going to be willing to work this business, so many hours a week. So we've got to be able to speak to the folks that are going to be here 60 minutes a week. And that's our focus right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think eliminating and rationalizing things like a portfolio is definitely harder. But in a lot of ways, especially once a company reaches a certain age, around 5 years or so, I think it's eliminating things that can have probably the greatest impact. And I love that you have such a strong focus on the onboarding process, because I think anything else, focus on that. If a company is going to put resources towards simplifying anything right now, it's really around onboarding, where anything else is kind of ancillary to that. If you don't fix that, if you don't nail that well, then there's no point in fixing a lot of these downstream processes.
No, I love that you just mentioned SKU rationalization. We've also been doing that. I think last year at our height, Wayne, we had 140 different products.
Oh, wow.
And that's quite a lot of products. We were hot and heavy in innovation after COVID, and that's just too many for our consumers, too many for our consultant. And so we've been undergoing a very focused SKU rationalization process. And so, when that's realized next year, we'll be at about 30 core products. And that creates
amazing.
That creates, as well as some small lot lines for our Scout Circle members. But that creates room for clean crafted lifestyle innovation as well. And so, less really is more, but it's hard to get to less.
It definitely is. And again, I love that you said kind of making room for something else. Every time we add something, every time we launch something, as you mentioned, the leader in the field, the distributor, has to find out how to incorporate it into their day, into their duplication model. And a lot of times we can overwhelm them. We get really excited about new, but they really want simple. And I think that consumers don't always want more choices. They want more confidence in the choices that they have. And I love that you're rationalizing. I mean, that's a pretty deep cut into the portfolio to take it down to about 30 SKUs. So it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. And one of the people that I learned this the most early on in my career, I think, is Dave Wentz. He at the time was CEO of USANA, and he was saying that they had really a fixed number of SKUs that they would allow in the portfolio. And if I'm remembering correctly, it was about 25. And anytime they added a new product, they would have to rationalize or remove another. And so there was always this, I think, really healthy negotiation, I think, with the field and field leaders. But again, complexity can kill a company, not just from a financial resource standpoint, but from an attention resource standpoint of the field. And so I love that you've really focused on that. I'm excited to hear the results. That's really cool that you were able to be so strategic and cut so deep.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. Think about the menu. It's like you go to a restaurant, it's like the 20. Which menu do you want to look at? The 25-page menu with the
right
spiral, or the single-page menu with 8 dishes?
Absolutely. I'm all about keeping it as simple as possible.
Yeah,
absolutely. So looking back over the last 5 years since you founded the company, is there anything that you would do differently, or any advice you would give to yourself back then?
Sure, lots of things. Watch out for COVID. Be prepared for lots of growth.
Right.
I think a couple of other things. I think we would have simplified earlier. I think this move to simplification, happened. I think our focus on it should have been earlier. I think we should have started simpler. I think we were overcomplicated from the start. In every single way. Products, onboarding, technology, systems, everything. External, consultant facing, internal. I think start with simple. I would certainly give myself that advice. Also, bringing in the field more. In the beginning, we started with the field kind of at the table. The field leaders were at the table with us making decisions. And then we got a little bit away from that, kind of in years when COVID hit. And we've returned to that. I think I would tell myself in year one, like, stay with this, keep the field leaders in the decision-making table with you, because it makes for better decision-making process where everybody, you build what you create, right? So I would tell myself to do that. I think those are some things I would tell myself what I would do differently.
I think those are two very powerful things. And I'm curious on the last with the field input. Is is that a formalized process? Do you have an advisory board with kind of a set cadence of meetings, or do you like to get, feedback from varying ranks kind of more on a continuous basis? I'm just curious, how much of a formalized process that's become internally.
It's both. We have some councils that we meet with on a variety of subject matters. And then our leadership team is very active in reaching out to them weekly on certain things, the join process, the checkout flow, the incentives we just launched, communications, everything. So we just, both formally and informally are more linked with them than we ever have been. It's very much like it was in the beginning in terms of building the company with them. And so that makes for a more, it just makes for a better processes, better systems with them.
Absolutely. And I think also always better outcomes and outputs when bringing them in kind of early and often. When you were talking about simplicity, I wrote a note down here. And it's interesting, and I think in today's kind of gig economy, however we want to define it, where more than ever now, there's other options for people to earn additional income, at varying levels. And a lot of those are really easy. They're really simple. You can start earning money really quickly, whether it's Fiverr or Uber or Airbnb, there's other ways. And I want to come back to the importance of simplicity and how all of our companies, if we don't really simplify the purchase process, if we don't simplify the onboarding, if we don't simplify, how to rank advance and learn about different trainings and comp plans, that's who I think the real competition for each of us is right now. It's not each other. It's not one another. It's these other income opportunities in a lot of ways. Any thoughts around how your field kind of thinks about that as well, or how you tackle kind of who your competition is? Or right now, are you still just, laser focused and head forward on what Scout Cellar is doing?
I mean, I think right now our biggest competition is ourselves. We do a good enough job of getting in our own way sometimes that
right.
That I think that the opportunity to simplify, to continue to make it easier for our consultants and our customers to do business with us. This idea of a frictionless experience is something that I think we should all aspire to create for consultants, for customers, for subscription holders, whether it's a Scout Circle member, an AutoSip member. I think it's something that we should perpetually be working towards, whether we're in the direct selling industry or the CPG industry or the whatever it is. Like that's what consumers today want, whether they're trying to earn a buck or spend a buck. And so I think it's, to be successful today, I think we have to create something that is frictionless. And so that's kind of our North Star for Scout Cellar, is to work to create a frictionless experience that for our consultants is empowering and rewarding and results in a community that is meaningful to them, and then also they can improve their lives through earning a living, but also they can create a frictionless experience for their customers. And so that's a word we've continued to use this year as being our North Star.
I love that. So strategically vital, I think, to the success of all of our companies. So I'm curious, a question on entrepreneurship. Everyone I shouldn't say everyone, lots of people get the bug, every now and again, and it's really hard to make the leap. I mean, especially, leaving a job where there might be a lot of safety, a lot of comfort. For anyone listening that's considering taking the entrepreneurial route, starting a new company, what advice would you give them?
Well, I'd love to tell a story to answer this question.
Please.
I met a couple of 3 years ago with a lawyer over coffee who's a friend of a friend. And she was very anxious and uptight and excited about her idea for this business she wanted to start. And she talked to me about it. She almost wouldn't tell me the idea. She was so anxious about the excitement of it. And so we talked through the idea and how she's going to get started and all these things. And she was working as a lawyer at a big law firm. And she says, Sarah, I'm going to go in and put my notice in today. And I said, Erin, based on your roadmap, I don't see you generating any revenue for probably 24 months. I said, I would recommend strongly that you reconsider putting in your notice, but build this on the side, do this and that, and let me know if I can be a resource for you. But please don't put in your notice today. And I was traveling this week. My daughter played in a soccer tournament in Utah. And on Wednesday, I was at Love Field. And her idea was a diaper delivery system in airport and mall bathrooms for moms that are traveling with kids or out about with kids and run out of diapers and diaper cream. And I see at Love Field, I see this diaper genie delivery system. And so I messaged the girl. And I was like, did you bring this to life? And she said, I did. We just launched in Love Field about 3 months ago, and we're launching in these other malls later this year. She said, and I'm still working my day job. Thank you so much for all the advice you gave. It was invaluable. Like, I'm so grateful that I stuck in my day job and I continue to build this business on the side. I'm really excited for where we're going. And so I think my advice to entrepreneurs, as it was to Aaron, was build out a business, envision where you're going, and get started on it. Ask as many smart people as you can for help, and do a lot of Googling, but don't take the leap until you're really ready. Whether that's, you have some sort of funds raised, or you have someone that's supporting you, or something else, because there's a lot you can do as a side hustle.
Absolutely. That's really powerful advice. And it definitely goes a long way in de-risking. There's always a tremendous amount of risk in entrepreneurship, and anything you can do to de-risk that situation and that venture, I think is going to pay huge dividends. So, and I'm so happy for her that she's been able to launch it. I think we've all been in that situation at times where, yes, we're out of those vital tools for parenting, and usually in the most inopportune place and inopportune time. So I'm so excited for her that she was able to launch that and has it going. And if you ever talk to her again, let her know that we wish her continued success. That's really cool.
I will. We're having coffee next week, so I will tell her.
Yeah, please let her know. So lastly, I kind of want to wrap up with this question. You've had an incredible 5 years. What an amazing journey. I'm sure it feels like 25 years in a lot of senses. But what's next for Scout Cellar? As you look down the road, the next 5 years, what do you see is in store for Scout Cellar?
It does feel like 25 years. I hardly remember my life before it, but it has been the best. It has been the best 25 years of my life. My kids think Scout Cellar is our third kid. It's their little sibling. So I'm incredibly grateful for the last few years, and for all the folks that have been a part of this journey all along the way. And so the next 5 years, looking to continue to grow this clean crafted lifestyle and to be able to impact the lives of so many more people in that way, and to expand in ways that I look forward to discussing with you, Wayne, maybe the next time we talk, but continuing to empower others, and to really empower others to feel the clean crafted difference by building out this clean crafted lifestyle is really what's next for Scout Cellar. So very excited for the next 5 years.
I love that. What a great vision. And we wish you continued success for the next 5 years and beyond. Thank you for taking the time today, for sharing these incredible insights. Thank you for the time that you take at DSU in sharing with the broader direct selling audience. And thanks for being an awesome example of entrepreneurship for all of us. And again, we can't wait to hear how things continue to go.
Well, thanks for having me, Wayne. You're awesome. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Talk to you soon.
All right, you got it. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. We invite you to subscribe so that you are the first to know when new episodes are available. And we hope you can join us this fall, October 6th and 7th, for the DSU Fall 2022 event taking place in Irving, Texas. It is a hybrid event, so you can attend virtually. However, we highly encourage you to join us in person so that you can network and share up close in person and get the experience that you can only get in an in-person event. Go to dsu2022.com for more details and to register today. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.